the seat of power, the man in seat 2. He looked like anyone else you might find in a first-class cabin. Well-dressed but not flashy. Quiet but not withdrawn. Confident without arrogance. He wore a navy cashmere blazer over a soft gray shirt. Slacks pressed so cleanly, they looked like they'd just come from the tailor. His brown leather carry-on was tucked neatly under the seat in front of him, and in his hands rested a worn hardcover copy of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. His name was Julian Thorne. To most people, that name meant nothing, and Julian liked it that way. For over 2 decades, he had built an empire in the skies, founding and leading Skybound Aviation, one of the most prestigious private aviation companies in the Western Hemisphere. His aircraft had carried presidents, dignitaries, tech tycoons, even royalty. But today, Julian wasn't flying private. Today, he had chosen to fly commercial. It was intentional, deliberate, almost symbolic, a quiet gesture toward simplicity. The airline Apex Air had recently entered into talks with Skybound Aviation. They wanted access to Julian's next-gen eco-engine patents, a revolutionary design that could cut emissions by nearly half and reduce fuel costs by even more. Licensing it meant billions. And while his legal and engineering teams handled most of the details, Julian made a point to personally review potential partners. Culture mattered, leadership mattered. He had boarded early, found his seat, and begun reading. Occasionally, a few passengers stole glances at him. He didn't mind. He looked familiar to some, like he might have been someone's college dean or maybe a quietly powerful board member. But no one placed him exactly, and Julian wasn't interested in being recognized. But someone else was interested, and not in a good way. As the final wave of passengers boarded, the cockpit door opened, and out stepped Captain Marcus Reed, mid-50s, buzz-cut, pilot wings gleaming against his uniform. He walked through the aisle like he owned the plane, eyes scanning his passengers. When he saw Julian, something shifted. He hesitated, then marched straight down the aisle toward him. "Excuse me, sir," he said loudly, with a tone more suitable for confronting a trespasser than greeting a customer. "Are you sure you're in the right seat?" Julian looked up, serene as ever. "Yes, 2A," he replied, offering his ticket with a calm smile. Captain Reed barely glanced at the ticket. "First class is for elite status passengers, not upgrades." A few heads turned. Julian blinked once slowly. "I didn't receive an upgrade." The captain crossed his arms, loud enough now for the entire cabin to hear. "I've flown this route for years. I know every regular up here. This cabin has standards. I don't recall seeing you before." The air shifted. Silence fell. A woman in seat 3B looked away, embarrassed. A man across the aisle coughed awkwardly. Julian, however, remained composed. "That's probably because I usually fly my own planes," he said evenly. Captain Reed chuckled. A short, dismissive snort. "Right?" he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Well, maybe next time you should stick to whatever you're used to. This cabin maintains certain expectations." With that, he spun on his heel and returned to the cockpit. The door clicked shut behind him. Julian said nothing. He opened his book again and resumed reading. The rest of the boarding continued without incident, but whispers floated through the cabin like an uncomfortable fog. Some people glanced toward Julian with curiosity. Others avoided his gaze entirely. A flight attendant named Olivia, who had overheard everything, leaned down discreetly beside him. "Mr. Thorne," she said softly, "is there anything I can get you?" He looked up. "I'm fine. Thank you, Olivia." She hesitated, then nodded and stepped away. The plane pushed back from the gate, but before it reached the runway, something unusual happened. The aircraft stopped. A few minutes passed. Then the engines powered down. Passengers murmured. The seatbelt sign remained lit. Olivia came back on the PA system. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice tight, "we've received a message from ground control. We'll be returning to the gate due to an unexpected issue." There were groans, audible frustration. Julian simply bookmarked his page and placed the book on the seat beside him. Within minutes, the jet bridge was connected again. The cabin door opened, but instead of maintenance staff or more passengers, 3 men in executive suits stepped inside. 2 were from Apex Air. The third wore a silver skybound aviation logo. They didn't hesitate. They headed straight for the cockpit. The cabin watched in stunned silence. The cockpit door opened. Voices were raised. Then Captain Reed stepped out. Now the captain emerged, confused. "What's going on?" he asked. One of the Apex Air VPs stepped forward. His name was Mr. Caldwell. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You're being removed from this flight, effective immediately. You're also being placed on administrative leave pending investigation. You may exit the aircraft and await further instructions from HR." Captain Reed's jaw dropped. "Wait, this is ridiculous. What are you talking about?" Mr. Caldwell's expression was stone. "You publicly humiliated Mr. Thorne, one of the most influential leaders in global aviation and a key figure in our partnership negotiations. Your conduct jeopardized not only your position but our merger, our technology agreements, and our entire future with skybound aviation." Reed looked toward Julian, whose expression hadn't changed. "That man," Reed sputtered. "That? Yes," Mr. Caldwell interrupted. "He's the reason you're walking off this plane today." Security arrived moments later. Reed, red-faced and stunned, gathered his belongings and exited to a chorus of stunned gasps. Julian stood. He nodded once to Olivia, then to a young mother holding her toddler in seat 3D, who had looked horrified throughout the ordeal. Then he stepped off the plane without saying a word. The next morning, headlines exploded. Captain fired mid-flight after publicly insulting aviation icon. Apex's $3 billion deal nearly wrecked over pilot's bias. Julian Thorne breaks silence, urges empathy, reform in corporate culture. Julian released a brief statement. Respect should not be conditional. It should not depend on race, attire, or recognition. True leadership does not condescend. It uplifts. Let this be a reminder that quiet strength often speaks loudest when it refuses to respond in kind. Then, without ceremony, Julian donated $15 million to aviation scholarship programs specifically for underrepresented youth. His message was clear. Raise others higher, even when you've been dragged low. Captain Reed, meanwhile, was suspended indefinitely. No airline would touch him. His name became a cautionary tale, a warning about bias, entitlement, and unchecked pride. As for Apex Air, the deal with skybound aviation went through, but not before Julian quietly added one new clause. All personnel, flight, ground, and administrative, must undergo equity and dignity training certified annually by an external board. No headlines mentioned that part, but Julian didn't care. That was never the point. Weeks later, Julian sat again in a first-class seat. Different airline, different flight. But this time, the captain approached him with a warm smile. "Mr. Thorne," he said, offering a respectful nod. "Thank you for flying with us." Julian smiled in return, offering nothing but the same calm dignity he always carried. Some men shout their power. Others sit quietly until the world is forced to listen. And in the quiet aftermath, a subtle but profound shift occurred within Apex Air and beyond. The mandatory equity and dignity training, spearheaded by Julian's insistence, began to reshape the company culture. Employees, from baggage handlers to senior executives, participated in workshops designed to foster understanding, empathy, and respect across all interactions. While some grumbled initially, the tangible consequences of bias, so publicly displayed, served as a potent reminder of the importance of these values. Over time, a noticeable change permeated Apex Air. Passengers reported more positive and inclusive experiences. The airline's reputation, once teetering, began to soar, attracting a more diverse and appreciative clientele. Internally, communication improved, and a greater sense of camaraderie developed among the staff. The incident with Captain Reed became a pivotal moment, a catalyst for genuine and lasting change. As for Julian Thorne, he continued to lead skybound aviation with the same quiet strength and unwavering commitment to his principles. He never sought public accolades for his actions, content in the knowledge that he had used his influence to foster a more just and equitable world, one interaction, one policy change, one quiet act of leadership at a time. The ripple effects of that mid-flight confrontation extended far beyond the immediate consequences, serving as a powerful testament to the enduring impact of principled action in the face of prejudice.